let's just start with a little housekeeping. Restrooms are located over there through that barn door. Be sure to check out our literature table right at, what's that, 12 o'clock? Right behind me or in front of me. And we also have some light refreshments for you, so feel free to help yourself. Please don't be shy. All of us are here today because we are fed up with the two-party system. We are fed up with these millionaire, capitalist politicians of both the Democratic and Republican parties who don't represent us and don't represent our interests and have no idea of our everyday struggles. There are few things more vilified in the mainstream political conversation than third-party campaigns for president. Candidacies outside of the two parties are called spoilers. Those who vote alternative are portrayed as privileged, people who can afford to vote third party. There are tremendous hurdles for third party candidates. Among those hurdles are the state-by-state thicket of rules, restrictions, and astronomical petitioning requirements that make it impossible to appear on most voters' ballots without huge sums of money or armies of volunteers. For the last 4 decades, the political spectrum has only shifted more and more pro-ultra-rich direction. Income inequalities are skyrocketing, housing prices have increased, not to mention healthcare and higher education have become more unaffordable. The number of billionaires has grown while 40 million people go hungry every day in this country. Homelessness is at epidemic levels in most every major country or city. If we had a government that truly represented us, no single child or adult within this city or this country would be homeless. We would not have lost one of our level 1 trauma center hospitals here in this city. Billions of dollars would not have been spent on the apartheid state in Israel to commit genocide against the Palestinian people. Racist discrimination, poverty, and inequality in this country continues to this day. The Black community is disproportionately affected by a lack of health care, education, and high-wage jobs. The Black community is harassed and abused by the police, courts, and prisons. There's a war on working class people of every nationality and gender by the elite ruling class in this country, and an ongoing war on Black America. We need fighters who are truly dedicated to the working class, not these out-of-touch billionaire politicians that have nothing in common with us. That is why we are running a socialist program for presidency, headed by Karina Garcia for president and Karina Garcia for vice president. This election cycle is a key opportunity to show the necessity of socialism and to help build the movement to achieve it. I am so excited to say that our VP Karina is here with us. Georgia, for decades, tried to prevent third parties from getting on the ballot. But a recent lawsuit against the state forced Georgia to place any third party candidate on the ballot if they successfully gather enough signatures in a petition. Our goal is to collect 17,000 signatures. This is not easy. But with the hard work of many dedicated volunteers, we are 1/3 of the way through.
Really?
Okay. Thousands of Georgians have signed our petition because the socialist program speaks to them. But we need your help to get over the finish line.
That's
so
true.
Please sign up at the table over here. Yes. To volunteer to help us collect the remaining signatures over the next few weeks. So we can put a socialist program on the ballot in Georgia for the first time in over 80 years. This is our program. The Claudia Karina campaign is a campaign of the working class. And we cannot do this without your participation or your support. There is no alternative unless we build it together. Today, we will hear from a few local organizers on why they are supporting socialists, and the 2024 Claudia and Karina campaign, and Vice Presidential candidate Karina herself. But first, we will hear a short poem about Gaza from PSL organizer Noor. So please welcome Noor.
Allahu Akbar. God is most great. Allahu Akbar, they say as their lungs burn from white phosphorus. Allahu Akbar, they say as the surveillance drones hover above them. Allahu Akbar, they say as the fascist regime burns down their olive trees. Allahu Akbar, they say as they hold their dead children in bags. Allahu Akbar, they say as they stare down the barrel of the occupation. Allahu Akbar, they say as they are being criminalized, dehumanized, and vilified. Allahu Akbar, they say as they preserve their history to pass on to the next generation. Allahu Akbar, they say as they're being displaced from their homes. Allahu Akbar, they say as they march for freedom. Allahu Akbar, they say as they hold up their keys, flags, and kufiyas. Allahu Akbar, He bestowed upon us the spirit of Summa. Allahu Akbar, we will not relent. Allahu Akbar, we will not be discouraged. Allahu Akbar, Gaza will be free. Allahu Akbar, they will say when they return to a liberated Palestine. Allahu Akbar, we will see a world free of oppression in our lifetime. Allahu Akbar, God is most great.
Thank you so much, Noor, for that beautiful cultural grounding that we need in this moment. Give it up again for Noor. Okay, before I invite our first speaker, I want to mention that this Sunday, tomorrow, we are helping organize a rally for Palestine in Alpharetta along with the Palestinian Youth Movement. Oh. Yes, give it up. Biden and Netanyahu's horrific genocide in Gaza is now threatening to draw a whole region into war. Israel has carried out another act of aggression toward Iran, a second act of war following the April 1st attack on the Iranian embassy in Damascus, Syria. Each day, the Zionist occupation uses our tax dollars to carry out this racist occupational agenda. But there is a global mass movement fighting to end this. The protests will be Sunday, April 21st, tomorrow, at 2:30 at the Avalon in Alpharetta, so please join us. And now I want to invite up our first speaker. Claudia is an organizer here in Atlanta with the Party for Socialism and Liberation, and she will be speaking on our democracy under capitalism and whether democracy and capitalism are actually compatible. Please welcome Claudia.
Stand up, fight back.
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 Thank you everybody for joining us today. My name is Claudia again. I'm a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. And I'm really grateful for everyone here joining us in person and who's been with us petitioning in the streets. It's very important to help get the socialist campaign on the ballot. And I want to start off by asking the question, why run socialist candidates in the first place? Why not run them as Democrats? You know, a lot of people ask us, they come up to us and they say, you know, if you just ran as a Democrat, you could still be socialist on, you know, the low key, but you would get more exposure that way, and you might actually have a chance of getting elected. But our VP candidate, Karina Garcia, says it best, like this. The purpose of our campaign is not to give a new face to the same criminal system that is killing our people. And tonight I want to discuss why Claudia de la Cruz and Karina Garcia are running independently of the Democratic and Republican parties. Our opposition to Trump, Biden, the two-party system, Biden's inability to counter the ultra-right-wing Republicans' assaults on our rights, and what genuine democracy means for working people. The political program we are proposing is one that will end this two-party system. The two parties are two sides of the same coin, which is the dictatorship of the rich. You ask, what is the dictatorship of the rich? It basically is that while the government rules over the people, the millionaire class rules over the government. And that's why those same Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, they don't pay taxes. They don't have to pay taxes. We all pay taxes just a few days ago. But they can use their power and influence to create the same loopholes that they can funnel their money away in offshore companies and not pay a single dime while they hoard the vast majority of the wealth in this country, while people are on the streets, while hospitals are getting shut down, while children are being denied lunch meals. And so the dictatorship of the rich is the main thing stopping us from creating an economy for the people. It's stopping us from securing free quality healthcare, education through college and beyond, free childcare, decent housing, and a living wage with a union. And so many other necessities that would be constitutional rights. Under this system, our hard-won rights are attacked by the ultra-racist Republican Party. The Democrats assert that Biden is our only defense against Trump and that the far-right's assault on democracy. Trump and the extreme GOP threaten our rights, all while the Democrats sit around doing nothing to stop the rise of fascist violence, happy to just play political theater on CNN. And on top of all that, Trump attempted a violent fascist coup on January 6th, using racist mob violence to undemocratically cement his rule for another 4 years. And where have been the consequences for that? He's allowed to run for president again. Shame. And facing dismal approval ratings, Joe Biden is hoping to gain an electoral advantage by posturing as the only person standing in between or standing in the way of that fascist takeover. The only person who could protect people's basic rights from Trump and the ultra-right Republican Party. But Biden's actions in office tell us otherwise. They tell an entirely different story, because under Biden, this is what he's actually accomplished, where he says like, oh, we've slashed the prices of insulin and Medicare for people, right? They like to say like, Biden's done so much for the working class, but what he's actually done is expanded environmental destruction and fossil fuel extraction, undermined workers' rights by blocking the rail workers' strike, cut a deal to raise the debt ceiling by cutting food stamps, and internationally, the administration's pursuit of a new Cold War with Russia and China is pushing us ever and ever closer to a global conflict, and wasting our tax money, all in the pursuit of the, United States dominance over the world. Shame. Mm-hmm. And he continues the same policy that Trump had on Cuba and Venezuela by keeping all 200 plus sanctions on Cuba and China, which is actually a reversal of the Obama administration's policy back when he was vice president, because they were pursuing, easing relations with Cuba and letting the Cuban people live. So the Democratic failure to defend democratic rights extends to abortion legislation, voter suppression laws that disproportionately affect black voters, and the support for expanding law enforcement presence, exemplified by Biden's proposal to get 100,000 more police officers. This underscores the need for a genuine people's democracy and not a police state. And now President Biden is giving Israel complete support while it's committing a genocide in Gaza. Biden has the blood of more than 30,000 Palestinians on his hands. Shame. Biden, Trump, Obama, every single U.S. president since 1948 has given money and arms to Israel. And Biden shows absolutely no change in that policy. Biden actually wants to give even more money to Israel, $14 billion more to kill Palestinian men, women, and children. And that's all money that we paid. That all comes from our money.
Shame.
And we don't even have a right in that. We don't even have a say in that decision. And we don't even have a right to health care, housing, or education in this country. And yet the Democratic Party has the nerve to tell us that they're the lesser of two evils. That Biden and the Democrats are the only defenders of our basic human rights. Biden is incapable of protecting and expanding democracy against the right-wing threat. We must organize for a people's democracy like this campaign, through avenues like this campaign. And all our lives, we're told that we live in the greatest democracy in the world. But wherever the vast majority of people are actually polled in this country, they're asked, what do you think of the government's action? The majority of people say that we hate this government. We hate what they're doing. We hate their guts. Disapproval of the job in Congress, it normally hovers around 80%. And it makes me wonder, what's that other 20% if not the people actually in Congress? So why is that? This is because the two parties that say represent us, it actually only represents the capitalist class. They're the ones who make our lives worse. Half the population lives in or near poverty, and yet not one member of Congress knows what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck. For the working class, democracy feels hollow, especially for Black America. Voter purges, gerrymandering, ID requirements echo the reality of 50 years ago, which was racist apartheid, when that was the law of the land. And now we have gentrification, pushing the working class even further and further out of the city. Militarized police invade our neighborhoods, and now Biden and Democrats want to support a cop city to train those same cops in better ways of oppressing us. Shame. And both parties perpetuate this system. The Democrats claiming to combat racism, all while racistly combating us.
Yeah.
So for the working class, what options do we have? We need to build a movement. We need to build an independent movement where we, not Biden or Trump, are the leaders. We are the leaders that need to ask, and as leaders, we need to ask ourselves a crucial strategic question. What is democracy? What is even democracy? What does democracy look like? Do you feel like you live in a democracy? Does it feel like democracy when you get fired out of nowhere? Does it feel like a democracy when a hospital gets shut down in your neighborhood?
No.
We have no say over those decisions. We have no say over the conditions in our workplace, over our housing conditions, how much we get paid, what hours we work, the most important things in our lives, and we don't even get to have a say in that. We don't get to have a say in whether or not our country goes to war. It's just pushed down our throats. Capitalism is like a pyramid. The broad mass of the population are at the bottom of society, and the ultra-rich capitalist owners live at the very top. So let's get back to that question, what is democracy? Because capitalism cannot give it to us. The working class needs to fight for a real democracy. And the only way we can do that, the only way we can have a real democracy is through socialism. The goal of socialism is to turn that pyramid upside down, where the last will be first and the first will be last, and the majority of the population, the people who survive through their own work, are finally at the top, and the pyramid itself we will tear down. That's what a real democracy is. Instead of the working class only having the right to vote for one rich white guy every 4 years, we will have the power to say and dictate what matters in our lives and how our communities are shaped and developed to prosper and create dignity for all. The tools of our economy would finally become a collective beneficiary for the society, for the wealth of society, and not the few. So starting today, let's fight for what's ours. Let's fight for our own liberation, and let's vote socialist and build this movement up.
Thank you so much, Claudia. We appreciate you for that important analysis and perspective as we build an alternative outside of the two-party system. Give it up for Claudia. Now, I would love to invite Jawan here to the podium. Jawahir is a Palestinian organizer, community organizer in Atlanta, and a supporter of PSL's Claudia and Karina presidential campaign. She will be speaking about why she supports a socialist third-party campaign as someone who is fighting for Palestinian liberation and the liberation of all oppressed people. Please welcome Jawahir.
Hello everyone, my name is Jawahir. I'm a Palestinian, was born and raised in Jerusalem of the Old City. First of all, I would like to welcome all of you and thank you all for coming up and supporting us through this hard time for the last 7 months. But we are now supporting our party for freedom, for liberation, party for socialism. The party is going to speak up for us as a human being. And I'm supporting them as a Palestinian. I'm supporting you all the way. And I will not stop supporting because this is the first time I was talking to one of the PSL members. I was coming in here and I was really overwhelmed by this because this is the first time in the history of us and as Palestinians, somebody would speak up for us, speak up the right for us to live as a human being, speak up against the system that is basically this system turning us into a slave, not turning us into a leaders, because we are all leaders. We are all leaders and we have the right to live. We have the right to say what we want. We have the right to live, all of us together, despite the different genders or religion or cultures or our colors. It's despised. We have the right to live like this, to be free. So this is the first time in our life we are going to help them. We are going to help Claudia and Karina. We are going to help ourselves to get to this level. We are going to help because each revolution started with one person who's speaking up for the right of people, who spoke up for against slavery, against all these things that's going on. Biden, Netanyahu, and the party basically, and the Biden, the party we have now, the two-system party now, right now, they're not speaking up for us. They're speaking up for the millionaire. They're speaking up for the rich. They're not speaking up for us as a right. They're not speaking up for the homeless when we drive in and we see them in the street. They're not speaking up for the women. They're not speaking up for the people of color. They're not speaking up for the people of trans. We need to help them to achieve this, because when we achieve this, when we get to this level, when we have a candidate as a president of the United States, the one speaking up for us, we are going to be free. We are going to be free from this slavery system that we got put ourselves into it by going to elect Biden or by going to elect the Democrat, as you said earlier, that why they don't run as a Democrat? They have better chance to achieve. No, because we are against the system. We are against this cruel system that it does not give us the right. When I was getting signature, somebody said, they have a chance to be actually, why they don't go run for the Congress? Why they don't run for a smaller position? I said to him, because when we want to run for the right of a human being, we are going to start from the top. Because we are going to get to the top. We are not going to get from the bottom. We are not going to get from the bottom. We're starting from the top. We are going to keep supporting you. We're going to keep behind you. Now, what is really sad, the President Biden of the United States, the one he called himself as president, he's doing the genocide. He's a terrorist. He's a criminal. He's not. When he's helping with this genociding people, by the way, I'm not just supporting because you're supporting the Palestinian. And I always say it all over my speech. I'm supporting anyone who's standing up for a human being. Because our right as Palestinians, we've been fighting for 75 years. But our right, we are going to get it because of all of us together. We all of you together. We are on these things. There's one chant I love it says, the people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. And we are all, us you, and I went to the mosque, and I was given flyers, I was getting signatures, and somebody said to me, oh, you're supporting this party, this socialism party. They're supporting the trans. I said, they are supporting the right of a human being. Every person has the right to live, despite your color, despite your gender, despite your ethnicity, despite your religion. You have the right to live and speak. But who are you supporting? You're supporting Trump, basically, or you're supporting Biden, the one who's killing children. The other day, 11 children was killed. Did you hear about it? They were in the playground. They were not fighting. They were not holding a missile or a gun. They were really helpless. And what they're doing is playing freely. And what I'm supporting? I'm going to go support this party. Person have the right. You want to be a Democrat, you want to support the Democrat, the Republican, that's your right. But remember one thing. You are supporting the evil. You are supporting the criminal. Because your freedom to live here in the United States, your freedom, the right to live, your freedom is to know where is your money goes.
Yeah.
Where is your tax money goes. It's supposed to go us here. We say in our cultures or in Islam or anywhere, give charity. We are not giving charity. The United States is not giving charity. They're giving money for blood. They're giving money to kill people. They're not giving money here to the homeless to get a better healthcare system. To let us live with dignity. Not to let us live as slaves. Yes, every revolution started with a person. Started with you. Started with us. Started with the children. The smallest children. To speak up for the right. So we are all the way speaking up. I'm speaking up. I have the right to live as a free woman, as a free believer, as a free American, as a Palestinian, as a Muslim, as a human being. Despite what is my neighbor think, no, I have the right to live that. So we need to get them to that goal. Because without us, they're not going to get. They need our help because they're helping us as a human being. And do not give up. As Palestine, all over the world for 75 years, all these movements now is since October 7th. They said the war started October 7th. No, it started 75 years ago. But the war spread around since October 7th because all the human beings, they saw the evil of the government. A lot of us didn't know what the government is doing with our money. A lot of us didn't know when a person of color, a black person, Johnny Helmans, Deacon Johnny Helmans got shot August last year in the street because he called the police. He got in a car accident. He's 60 years old and he got put down. They gave him a ticket. He started taking cents the ticket. They tased him to death. You know why? Shame. You know why? Because he's black. He is black. They are racist. This government is racist. And we are going to do a revolution for our liberation, for the freedoms. We don't want this party, two-party system. Yes, we have the right to have a third-party system. The one who's speaking up for us, for the 1% of the society. The working class people, the poor people, not the millionaires, the ones they given all our money to go build factories. To build factories, to kill people, to kill the people here. Somebody said, oh, well, I'm not supporting them because they're speaking some rights. I don't believe in it. I said to him, do you believe in killing children? Do you believe it because you have a different color or I have a different ethnicity that I gotta be treated differently? I feel that, where's your ID when I go to the checkpoint in Jerusalem where I grew up? Stand up in every checkpoint. They ask me, where's your ID? That couple years ago, when I took my daughter to school, there was a lot of shooting in schools happening. So they set up a security guard at the gate. And he asked me, where is your ID? I started yelling at him and I said, I'm an American citizen. I don't need to give you my ID. I thought there was a soldier asking me for my ID. I'm 51 years old. And we suffering and living this thing every single day. The same thing when you go for a job interview. They don't look at your resume. They don't look which school you graduated. They look and see, your color. They look if you have any rich person, they have a recommendation letter for you. So what we need is, I'm asking and I'm begging all of you, this is the first time in our life that we get a candidate like Karina, like Claudia, to represent us, to speak for us. Do not look at the exact things like, oh, well, I don't support this bill. I'm not supporting what they're calling for, this thing. No. What's happening right now? Are you supporting this? No. Are we part of this system that is supporting us? No.
No.
It's basically we are a part of a system supporting the billionaires and the millionaires and supporting the majority of rich people. They have a control over us, the way we speak and we talk, and our freedom of speech. We go to protest, right? We have like about 20 police officers with us, and we're not saying anything. We're only speaking, free Palestine, free the people, free the land, freedom for Palestinians, free the people, and we get arrested. We can't speak up. But if we rich, like we need 17,000 votes to get to signature to get on the ballot, right? But if we have millions of dollars, we could get her there. But we're not. She's not. They're not speaking. They're not speaking for the millionaires, for the rich. They're speaking for us.
Yeah.
And I'm really, thank you so much. I was really overwhelmed, and I sat in the car for half an hour because I believe you're gonna win. Because Palestine will be free, and us here, we are going to be free from this system. Even if it's gonna take us years and years. Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, all these revolutionaries started with one person. The mountain get built up with one piece of dirt, and then you get to the top. And we are gonna keep going until we fight for our freedom. We fight for us. We fight for the right to live in a free place and to speak up for our children. When we get our children, we tell them, in years we're gonna tell them, we fought for you. They're going to be so proud of us. That's right. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Long live Palestine!
Long live Palestine!
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Wahid. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Yes, yes, and free all oppressed people across the world. Alright, so I'm going to cover one more important announcement before we bring up our vice presidential candidate, Karina Garcia. As you may know, this movement is completely self-funded. This campaign is a working class campaign. This means that we don't take grants or any money from corporations. Being financially independent means that we don't have to make compromises. When Democrat and Republican candidates get into office, the lobbyists of the corporate executives can call their office and say, remember all that money we gave you? Wasn't that nice? Well, now it's your turn to return the favor. I need a drill in the Arctic. Or pharmaceutical executives who want to prevent healthcare for all will call their friends in office and influence them to vote against Medicare. This is why millions of people don't have healthcare in this country. This is why people are dying from preventable diseases in this country. Everything we are doing as a grassroots movement is completely fundraised by everyday workers and students. We are pulling our own money to secure the things that we need to make this movement possible. All of the printing costs for the petitions and the signs, the cost of materials and supplies are paid for by donations. So, I want to ask you here today to consider making a donation. We can only do this critical work with your support. Any amount is welcome, 5, 10, 20, 50, 100, 1,000, whatever you got, everything helps. Please see Esteban if you would like to make a donation today. And now, without further ado, I would like to welcome our 2024 Socialist Presidential Candidate, Karina Garcia. Karina is a working class Chicana organizer and popular educator who, since 17 years old, has helped to lead campaigns in the U.S. against U.S. imperialism, landlord abuses, wage theft, police brutality, as well as fights for reproductive justice, immigrant rights, student financial aid reform, and more. She is the founder of the Justice Center in El Vado in New York City, and is a member of the Central Committee of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Please welcome Karina.
And Jasmine and Noor. This is why they don't want us coming together. This is exactly why all of these spaces like this, community spaces, are being closed down all around the country. This is why. Our people are powerful. Our people are powerful, and they're just telling the truth. Unlike these politicians funded by these billionaires who have to spend millions and millions of dollars for their PR campaign because they have to spin the reality. But there's a saying in Mexico, no puedes tapar el sol con un dedo. You can't block the sun with one finger. And that's where we are right now. Right? All around the country, we're seeing all of the same problems over and over again. I just came back from California. I went to Ventura County. It's an agricultural area. It had one of the highest rent increases in the country. When? 2020. Shame. At a time of a public health crisis, that's when these vultures show up to take advantage of people's misery. And they did. These Wall Street investment firms show up, they outbid everyone, and they're doing this all around the country. These big Wall Street investment firms that are buying these single-family homes, turning them into Airbnbs, and jacking up the rents.
Dang.
And now millions of families are not able to afford a home. And they're getting kicked out of their home. So at the same time, in this little county in California, when these predatory investment firms showed up, what happened to those people? Homelessness went up. It is a shame. And that's capitalism. That's capitalism. And it's happening all around the country. I love what you said, Jawahir. We are going to help ourselves. We are going to help ourselves. You know, yes. Sometimes people come to gatherings like this and they say, well, you guys are just preaching to the choir. Well, we need choirs. We need good choirs. And good choirs don't just appear. Good choirs are built. They're built by dedicated and committed people who come together and they practice and they know each other and they get a sense of their strengths and their weaknesses and they have a goal, right, of what it is they're going to do. And let's be honest, the problem in this country is not that we have too many choirs. It's not that we have too many strong organizations built of committed working class fighters who are fighting for the same thing. They might be on they have different tasks, but they're fighting for the same horizon, for what it is that we need and what it is that we can achieve, what we deserve. Because we know we live in the richest country in the world, and they got that way from slavery, and they got that way from genocide, and they got that way from stealing and robbing the resources all over the world. But that has to end. And the only people who are going to do it are the working people. The working people who do everything in this country. When the pandemic happened, let's never forget. Let's never forget how useless this government really was.
That's right.
Yeah.
They can send drones to assassinate families in Afghanistan, in Yemen, high-tech technology to kill people. But they couldn't send nurses masks or PPE. They couldn't do that. So what did the nurses do? They wrapped themselves in garbage bags and they went to work. And they saved people's lives regardless, without any of the help. It is a shame. And what did the billionaires do in the big cities? They ran away to their Hamptons homes. They moved, they left. In New York City, they abandoned the cities. But the people who stayed were the working people, were the immigrant workers, were the women, the sanitation workers that are undermined and disrespected every day, right? The service workers, the retail workers, the grocery food workers, right? The nurses, the doctors, the teachers, the home health aides. Working people kept this country alive, and we do it every day, and we do it for poverty wages. Imagine what we could do if we actually had power. I have to say I'm very humbled and nervous and excited to be here in the South. Where so many of my heroes and sheroes, the people that I read about, where they organized, where they stood face to face with the most violent, the most racist elements of this country. And for decades did tireless work. Even the rights that they fought for and won, the right to vote, were constantly being denied. It was working class women, black women, who were going in their neighborhoods and teaching people how to pass these ridiculous tests that were set up to prevent them from exercising their right to vote. And we can think about the history of the sharecroppers, the radical history of the sharecroppers in the 1930s. We can think about the history of the civil rights movement, of the Black Power movement. That's our lineage. That's our history. Those are the people we want to be.
That's right. That's right.
And I can't help but celebrate, as I was yesterday, the victory of the Chattanooga, Tennessee auto workers. We have to celebrate that victory. That was not easy. That was, not only did they defeat the company, they defeated the politicians. They defeated 150 years of anti-union propaganda, and they won their union. And this is the place where everything is sort of impossible. The place that we're all taught is so reactionary, and it has this militant history of resistance, facing off against the most vile forms of oppression. That's the legacy that we want to follow. But they're not going to build it for us. We are going to have to build it. And so this campaign is not just about preaching to the choir, although they're important. This campaign is also about winning people over to the possibility and the reality of the fact that we can no longer afford to waste our time and energy on a party that couldn't care less about us.
That's right.
Not another penny. Hey, Karina, can you pitch in $5 for this or that election? This has been the story over and over again. It's been decades of betrayal and lies. Ya basta. We've had enough of this. But that choir is not going to build itself. What we're trying to do with this campaign, there's no shortage of struggle in this country. People who are fighting for workers' rights, for immigrant rights, for black liberation, for women's rights, for immigrant women's rights. right? For all the little, we can split it up in a million ways, right? But all these struggles are all separated, and they all have to stay within their little borders. And then, of course, the reality of the nonprofit industrial complex. They're all funded by the same people who are creating those problems.
That's right.
Right? They are benefiting from the exploitation of our people, and those are the people who are going to solve it. Right? And that's not to say anything bad about the people who go into those jobs, because the people who go into those jobs actually want to help their communities. They want to do something to remedy all of the crimes of capitalism that they're seeing in their communities, the crimes of poverty, of homelessness. But just that's not going to get us out of it, because they have us all divided up in a million different ways. And so this campaign is really about weaving together all of those different struggles and bringing together the working class leaders of our communities and the fighters, and there are many. But we can't afford to waste our time on these people anymore, going around in circles as they play good cop, bad cop with our rights, right? One side wants to drag us into a nuclear war, and the other side wants to drag us into the 1800s, right? And they want us going around in circles in this rat race. But we're not rats. We're not rats. We're the ones who do everything in this society. We're the ones who take care of their elderly. We take care of their children. We feed them. We clothe them. We build their homes. We build their offices. We pick their fruits. We pick their vegetables. We stock those grocery shelves. We do everything for them. And what do they give us in return? Humiliation. Humiliation. Our people work here for 30, 40 years, and they can never retire. And that's not just people without status, without papers. That's millions of working class people who can never retire in the richest country in the world. And all of our people are being squeezed and squeezed. It's not even a controversial thing anymore to say, what was the reason for inflation? They've jacked up the price of rent, they've jacked up the price of gas, of food, of insurance, all of these things, right, in the 20% and up. And they did it because they can. And for all of that talk about supply chain nonsense, at the end of the day, it was straight up price gouging. And we saw it in their record profits. And the most aggravating thing about it is they act like there's nothing that can be done about it. The President of the United States will tweet. He'll write an angry tweet to the corporations, as if he doesn't have the power to set the prices, to punish this price gouging that's putting our people in poverty. The best they can do is send a mean tweet. It's a charade. It's a charade. And this campaign is really about bringing that up and talking to our communities and saying, let's build something new. We can do it, and we have to do it. So thank you for coming here today, for being part of this. And I want to shout out all of the organizers, because this didn't happen by itself. All of the chairs, the food, the banners, right? We don't need them. This is working class people who make events like this happen. We don't need them, and we don't owe them anything. So, oh my God. Look at this that I have. Wow. So the capitalists call this system that we live under, which Claudia so graciously talked about already, they call it a democracy, and we call it a dictatorship. A dictatorship of the rich, in fact. So just for fun, let's just think about this so-called democracy. I'm going to ask you some questions. So, do you have any democracy about how your neighborhood is developed? What about the price of rent? The price of repairs? Are you ever consulted for input? Has a vote on your rent or mortgage ever been offered to you? No. It's a dictatorship of the banks and the owners, the biggest landlords. They decide. And if they decide they want to jack up the rent, they can call their police to kick out the family who's living there. That's their right under capitalism. And that's why we have to bury capitalism. For fun, what about work? Do you have any say in the wages?
No.
The conditions?
No.
The benefits? No. That too is a dictatorship of the owners and corporations. They make all of the decisions. The people who are unelected, the CEOs in their boardrooms, make all of those decisions. In fact, the only semblance of democracy that you have in this country in your workplace is if you have a union, right? If you have a union, and the reality is that's only 6% of private sector workers now, but that's changing too. Shout out to the USNW. And honestly, the same thing can be said for all of the major decisions in our lives, from the environment to the gas prices, water, energy, technology, infrastructure. It's the mega corporations that make all of the decisions about this, and all we get to do is we're told to accept it, to go to work, pay your rent, and shut up until they come to get our vote in another 4 years. So how do we change this? If we were in high school, they'd say, vote for better people to pass better laws, right? If only. If only. But we all know that the system is so rigged that it's actually common knowledge for millions of people, and that's exactly why millions of people don't even bother to vote. Because they know that year after year, no matter who they vote for, nothing changes in their communities. The things that actually matter in their lives, they have no ability to change those things when they vote. But I'm going to read a study, because now there's actually graphs and data that show what is common knowledge to so many of our people. So Princeton University a few years ago, they did a study where they crunched the numbers on the US political system that they call democracy, and they looked at the impact that public opinion has on policy. And they saw that public opinion, and I quote, has near zero impact on US law. Wow. Near zero impact on US law. There was one factor that had an impact, however, and that was whether the richest 10% of the population supported or didn't support the law. That's right. So if the richest 10% of the population supported the law, then it was going to pass. And if the richest 10% of the population did not support a law, then it didn't pass. But the bottom 90% of people had near zero impact on US law. And that's just one example of the veto power. It's a veto power of capital. They have it in the Senate full of millionaires. They have it in the US Supreme Court, a bunch of unelected, unaccountable lords that can make decisions behind all of our backs and against all of our interests. And that's exactly what they're put in there to do. That's the system working exactly as it should. What we in the PSL would like to put out in terms of democracy is economic democracy, socialism, or real democracy, right? Where the vast majority of people actually have a say in their lives. So that's why the number one thing on our program is to seize the top 100 corporations, the Fortune 100. Those things should be put under public control and public management, out of the hands of the CEOs and into the hands of the working class. Without control over those things, we're just talking.
Yes.
To actually implement universal health care, education, housing, all of the things that the vast majority of people support but never changes, we actually would have to take control over those resources. And so just to give you a picture of what that could look like, because we do have to think bigger than not Trump or not Biden, right? We do have to think bigger. We have big problems. Like, we're talking about a climate emergency. We're talking about artificial intelligence that can threaten millions of jobs. And it doesn't have to be that way. Artificial intelligence could actually make our lives easier. But it's only because of this criminal system that could be used against us. And we have evidence of that for the last 50 years. Because there's this great chart that shows productivity in this country and wages. And the productivity chart is like this. You know, it's just like going up exponentially. And the wages chart is like this. It's the same as it was in the 1970s. It has not changed. So all of the benefits of productivity are going to this tiny class of people who don't deserve a fraction of the wealth that they control. That system cannot last forever, but it's not going to destroy itself. We have to help. So there are 1.7 million corporations in this country. So let's just say we took the top 100, right? And we leave the other 1,699,900 corporations as is. Let's say we don't even touch those. We just take, the working class just takes the top 100. What could we do with that? So I'm not going to read the whole list of 100. I'm just going to read the first 30. Just to give a sense of what we could do, right? And I want you to imagine for a second that spaces like this, where working class people are actually debating these issues and taking votes on these questions, that in workplaces, in schools, in neighborhoods, there would be assemblies like this, where working class people could actually debate, discuss, and take a vote on what we're going to do about the water. You know, we know that groundwater is being depleted in this country, that corporations and big agriculture, these big corporations are just sucking it dry. It's happening all over the country, but especially in places like California and Arizona. They build these huge wells, these Wall Street firms, and then all of the people who've been living there who are trying to retire, one day they go to their well and it's empty. Imagine you wake up one morning and you don't have water, and you spend a year of your life with water bottles. You actually have to take a shower, wash your dishes, everything with water bottles. That's happening in this country. The richest country in the world, that's happening. And it's because they use all of the capital that they've stolen from us to build these really deep wells and suck all that water to build, of course, the most thirsty crops in the driest parts of the country. Because they're so short-sighted and so narrow that all they think about is their immediate profits. And so they grow these crops, these water-intensive crops in the driest parts of the country. This is why we have to bury this system, because it's not sustainable. But I digress. Let's go back to these 100 corporations. So we are voting on all of these different questions. Right now, all of these different questions are being decided by a group of CEOs who are unelected, unaccountable. They make all of the important decisions about the economy. So if the working class were able to take just 100 of those corporations, let me give you an example of what they are. Walmart, Amazon, ExxonMobil, Apple, United Health Group, CVS, Berkshire Hathaway, Alphabet, Google, McKesson, Chevron, AmerisourceBergen, Costco, Microsoft, Cardinal Health, Cigna, Marathon, Phillips 66, Valero, Ford, Home Depot, General Motors, Elevance Health. So many of these are health insurance. A completely useless institution. JP Morgan Chase, we bought that one already. We paid for that one in 2008. That should be ours. Kroger, Centene, Verizon, Walgreens, Fannie Mae, Comcast, AT&T, Meta, Facebook, Bank of America, Target, and Dell.
Wow.
If you think about it, that's basically all we would need to actually be able to make democratic decisions in this country. If the people actually had control over those 100 corporations, we could deal with the problems that we're facing, they act like there's no solutions. They act like nothing can happen. But we can get organized. We can, if we know that our water is being depleted by the handful of corporations, we can stop that. We can put those corporations in jail. We can make an example of them. Right? And we could say, okay, maybe we shouldn't grow the thirstiest crops in the driest parts of the country. Maybe we should actually switch things around a little bit. But we can only do that if we actually have the power to do those things. And there's a lot of talent and there's a lot of creativity in our class. Our people are experts. They're already doing these things. But it's just this handful, this tiny class that is preventing us from advancing in the society, that is actually dragging us backward. So we gotta shake it loose. We gotta shake them loose. We gotta shake them loose. That is really just the starting point of socialism. That's just the starting point. When we talk about workers taking control of the means of production, that's what we mean. It means actually being able to have a say in the most important decisions of our communities and our families, being able to vote on something real, not just a vote between two of the most hated people in the country. And it's actually not that hard to imagine, because the U.S. actually took control of many factories and industries in World War II. And if you think about it, so much of what these billionaires call theirs is actually goods that have been stolen. It's the commons. It's water. They think they own that. They think they own future generations' access to water, so they can make short-term profits on these cash crops. So this is an example of all of the things that they do. You know, with public education is a good example. That is one of those things that they've underfunded for decades, right? So they underfund things first, make it look bad, shame it, and then they try to privatize it. And when they privatize it, that's where they make their money. And we've seen this with charter schools, but they weren't able to completely succeed because we did have teachers' unions to stop them. So we know that the resources exist, the people with the talent exist, we just have to get organized. The government already spends trillions of our dollars bailing out the biggest banks and corporations. The only thing that they unite on, like they can't unite to put $1 billion, not even $1 billion towards WIC, right? A program that actually feeds infants and children and pregnant women. It's a big debate, right? They spend years. What happened to Build Back Better? What happened to Build Back Better? They don't even talk about it anymore, right? So long there was all this debate about whether they can do it, whether they can't do it, and then we see them, they spend $1 trillion. $1.7 trillion is what they spend just on one program of F-35 fighter jets. It's the same amount of money that it would take to cancel the student debt, $1.7 trillion. So that's impossible to do, but they can spend, $1.7 trillion on these fighter jets that don't even work right. It's a shame. That's also, randomly, the equivalent amount of money that they spend for 20 years on federal housing. So the money exists. They're just using it for war and racism. And that's what more and more of us are seeing every day. And that's why it's so important for us to come together and connect with those people who are seeing that. Because the voices of our people are powerful. Because we don't need PR. Because we can just tell the truth. All right, there's a lot more facts, but I think we basically are on the same page with this. I feel like we're basically on the same page. The bottom line is that the working class needs power. That we don't need them. They need us. And they undervalue us, and they've taken us for granted for far too long. And they are running around right now, trying to squeeze us and make it impossible for us to survive. And that's why we have to race against them too. We have to race against them to build the vehicles that we need to actually take power in the society. That's what we're doing with this campaign. The last time that an openly socialist candidate appeared on the ballot in Georgia was over 80 years ago. For over 80 years, the Democratic Party had no organized progressive challenge. They've been comfortable, and it shows. The last time a socialist was on the presidential ballot in South Carolina was 1940. But this year is going to be different. This year is going to be different. We are going to be on the ballot in South Carolina. We've already worked with the South Carolina Workers' Party. We've secured that nomination. The question is, are we going to be on the ballot in Georgia? How many of you are going to be joining us to get on the ballot in Georgia? Stand up, show yourself. You're going to have us get on the ballot in Georgia. Yes, I give you all a round of applause. We're going to do it together. And hats off to you for taking this historic task. It is a historic task. With your support, we can do it, and without your support, we can't do anything. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Karina. That was inspiring.